This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 287, Selling for Nerds, a live presentation.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today I want to mix it up. Last Tuesday, I was a guest speaker for WordPress Naperville. It's a meetup of people who are experts at building WordPress websites. I've been a longtime member of the group, and I was asked to give some advice on selling websites, and I titled the talk Selling for Nerds because a lot of the people who are members there think of themselves as designers and artists and software engineers and things like that. The things they don't think of themselves as is sales professionals, and they all struggle with generating new clients. Because of my consulting with VoyagerNets last winter, it was easy for me to share how we attracted new clients, and for them I had built a repeatable and a scalable sales process, and that's what I share in this talk. I thought it might be interesting for you, the Sales Babble audience, to actually hear what it's like for me to do a live presentation. You can hear me say lots of uhs and lots of stuttering and stuff like that. But it was also a lot of fun, a very engaged audience. In fact, you know you're pretty successful in giving a presentation when there's like a ton of questions afterwards, and there was. Unfortunately, you can't hear the questions easily, so I've cut those out. With that said, this is a much longer recording than you're used to hearing on the Sales Babble podcast. I want to warn you up front, but I think you might really find it enjoyable. I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk a lot the last couple of weeks. Gary V, he's quite an excitable marketing guy. I don't know if you guys know him. I used to listen to him a lot 5 years ago. What I find interesting about Gary V is that everything that he does is content creation. Every single talk, every single conversation he has, he's recording it. His life is almost like a reality TV show. But one thing I've taken from him is that it's interesting to mix things up when it comes to content creation. And that's why I want to share this. Woohoo! Selling for Nerds. How to sell websites in a non-pushy way. That's the topic for today. Yeah. So I'm finally here to do this. Oh, I'm Pat. I'm Pat Helmers. It says right on there. And I have a slide coming up that talks about me, okay? But let me kind of explain a little bit about what we're going to talk about. We're going to understand the value that websites bring. We're going to talk about how to share that value with prospective clients, people. Then we're going to talk about how to meet people. And we're going to learn how to convert them into opportunities, and from opportunities to clients. I got a lot of slides. This is actually like two talks kind of slammed together. But even with that said, I feel like I didn't cover everything, but I'm going to do as best as I can. And I apologize if I sound a little gravelly. I don't know what it is, but something about my allergies have really been kicking up, and they're just constantly dripping on my throat. It's just kind of really disgusting. So if you can't hear me, if I sound bad, I apologize. Who I am, I help people try to figure out what's the value they bring to the market, get them to meet people who appreciate that value, and then scale that up. My next slide. I'm not really a business guy exactly. I didn't start out like a business guy. My degrees are actually in computer science. I was a Bell Labs engineer for many, 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 many years, a couple decades. And we did software development and telecommunication systems, and I wrote software, and then I was a technical manager for a long time. Then I taught software engineering for a long time, and then they fired me. Because there was a big downturn like in 2001, 2002. And then I really wasn't sure what to do. And then I bumped into a startup at a conference, and they had no business development at all. But I really liked the product. It was a web-based grade book for parents. This really didn't exist much in 2002, I think that was. So I started working for them, and I self-taught myself selling. And then over time, we had to bring people on. And I had already been a manager of people before. I became a vice president of sales. And I did that for a dozen years. And then I got fired. During that, just before that, I just started a podcast on selling. It's called Sales Babble, and that's how I learned WordPress. I made the website, and I am no WordPress developer by any means, but I know enough to build that website, and I've built 3 or 4 others. Right now, as I said before, I do business consulting, and I got a brand new idea I want to share with you, but we can wait for that when we get to the end of some things I'm excited about these days. But that's mostly what I do. I help people find customers, figure how to talk to them, get some clients moving, and then scale that up and turn it into a process. Which is how I got to this situation here. Earlier, I don't know why it doesn't like to do that. I have a client. I'm not spending too much time with him anymore. Hans van Aert. He's from South Africa, and he's got a company that builds account receivable software. And they tried to bring that to the United States. And wouldn't you know, it's a whole lot different here than it is in South Africa. And they're still trying to figure out how to do that. But during his time, he learned a lot about Python-based scripting language called Wagtail that you can actually build websites on. And he builds websites that he really, really, really loves. And he asked me if I could figure out how to sell his websites, which is kind of an interesting thing because having built websites for a while, I knew something about it. And first thing I told him was like, you're not going to compete against WordPress. But, and people bumped into that. But I decided to work for him, and I got him going in the right direction, because the goal was to get his first 10 clients, which is the hardest there is. Once you get 10 clients, then things get smoother, and that's certainly true. The next thing was then to build a business development process, this is how you do it. This is where we go to look for prospects. This is how we talk to them. It's how we chit chat, and it's all written down, that kind of stuff, and how to build a marketing plan on that. And we put all that processes in place. And then from that, I learned an awful lot. And every time I was doing this job, I kept thinking one of these days I'm going to come to the WordPress meetup here, and I'm going to tell you all what I did. So I'm finally here. I'm finally here to do this. Here's some assumptions that I'm going to have about you all. That you have something of value to bring to the market. Because I think that's really important. If the thing that you're bringing to market, if it only excites you and doesn't excite anybody else, no one's ever going to pay you for it. That's the gosh darn truth. I also could assume you understand what makes for a good website, and you understand, and I'm also wanting to make sure that you understand the benefits that people who use your website will get from it. That's much more important, because lots of people in their minds they can speak a lot about their technology and what makes them great, but a lot of people can't talk about what makes their customers great. Let me ask you a question like this. Would you agree, yes or no, that being in this website business is part art and part business? If you had to choose between the two for yourself, do you think of yourself more as an artist or a business person? Artist? Put your hands up. Business person. So it's like half and half. That's interesting. When we're selling stuff, you can only think like a business person. You can't think like an artist. One thing is I've found, the first thing we found we're doing this was, we were trying to sell websites to everybody. Anybody who would pay. Everybody needs a website. Well, that made it very hard to connect with anybody because you really don't know much about them. Something I read a long time ago was this whole idea that the riches are in the niches. That if you truly understand an industry and the secret language that industry has, the special way they use words and how they talk about stuff, that you're much more likely to connect with them and they'll trust you. So you pick a niche and you learn it. Because this is the thing. Websites, for the most part, are commodities. They're not art. They're all kind of alike. People just want a website.
I don't know how many times I talk to people. I just want a website. I don't care what it looks like. I just got to have it up there because everybody's got to have one. Just like everybody's got to have a phone number. And I heard that over and over again. Of course, we were of the notion of, but they're so pretty. Let me show you. They didn't care. People who are paying don't care. We decided over time to pick IT MSPs. You like this word? You like this website? The thing is if that website makes the company money, that works. I had a client tell me this. They had a really ugly website that over time had slowly become really something else. And they thought, we're going to make it pretty. So they redesigned the whole website, and all the leads that used to flow into it stopped. And they spent a year trying to bring it back, never got to it. They'd have been better off if they'd left it alone. And this is a really hard thing for people who, and I've seen this in here a lot. People start talking about their style sheets and how important it is because you get to move this over a little bit. People don't care. People who pay don't care. All that stuff you're often worried about. And by the way, I'm pointing at myself too by this because I do this to myself. You can't help but do it. It's a human thing to do. To say, oh, it'd look a little bit better because for the most part, people don't care. We know people stay on a website about 15 seconds. They don't have time to make a decision whether it's great art or not. It's all about your return on investment. And a good way I like to think about that is your client's going to pay you $1 with the idea that they're somehow going to make $2. Somebody else is going to give them more money than the $1 they give you. And that's kind of got to be the mindset of the website that you're building for them, that somehow or other it's going to make them more money. Or maybe they're not about money. They could be a nonprofit. Maybe they're just trying to get the word out about something. But there's something that they want that website to do. And it's got to be very clear in their mind that the work that you did is bringing that kind of flow into the company. If it doesn't add to the bottom line, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks. That's one big thing I really found in talking to people. They could care less because we were constantly showing them pretty websites. They didn't care. What they cared was how much was it. That's the kind of stuff they cared about. Another thing I learned was you have to provide SEO, which is, it's good that we're talking about that next month. Yeah, I mean, because it by itself, the website by itself is worthless if nobody goes to it. And I learned enough SEO here at the WordPress meetup that I'm somewhat adequate at. And I can make a page rank in a few days with some work. So you gotta throw that in. Because people want people to come to the website and look at it. So when we started putting those two things together, when we started having the attitude of like, oh yeah, we'll make it easy for people to find you, and it'll be pretty, and it's gonna be cost effective, and you're gonna get more business out of this. Then people started finding interest in some of the work that we did. The wrong focus, and this is common in all kinds of people that sell, that it's about me, not you. That it's about why I'm so talented, why I'm so smart, why I'm so good, and why you should pay me. When in reality, it should be, it's about you. What are the problems that you have? What are the challenges that you're facing? What are your desires? What are your needs? How can I help you? What is the value that I can bring to you that you'll be happy that I was in your lives? And that's kind of the mindset you want to have when you're selling. So let me give a concrete example on this. Let's say one day you're working at your desk and all of a sudden your phone rings and you look at it and it's somebody that you deeply love. And you're surprised because they never call at like 10 o'clock in the morning or sometime. And the first thing they say is, honey, I was just in a car accident. What's the first thing that would come to mind? What would you say to them? Are you all right? What else? Was anyone else in the car? What's your password? Okay. What else? What else would you ask? Was the car totaled? What else? What else would you say? Do you need any help? Right. Is there anything I can do? You want me to come there? You want me to go do something for you? Do you want me to call somebody for you? These are all questions, aren't they? But that's not how most salespeople sell. Well, most salespeople do this. They would say, honey, this is what I want you to do. Pull your phone out right now, and I want you to take a picture of the car. I want you to take a picture of the other car. I want you to get all the information on the person that you hit or they hit you. I want you to get all the information of the police officer that's there. You would tell them what to do. This is what you need to do. I know better. That's what a lot of selling people do. They get there in a meeting and they just talk about them. But instead, if you have an attitude as if you truly love these people, you truly care about them, you would say, are you okay? Is your business okay? Is anything broke? Is there anything I can do to help? That's kind of the mindset that we're looking to have instead. A nice way of tidying this all up, in my mind, is your value proposition. We help a certain kind of people who have a set of specific problems or desires. And we do this by providing a solution, in this case here, websites, so that they experience a bunch of benefits. And a bunch of benefits could be increased revenue, increased profit, it could be lower cost, it could be lower frustration, it could be faster, any number of those kinds of things, those business kind of things that matter to people. And it's different, the list of benefits that matters is different from industry to industry and who you're talking about. That's why it's good to know, work in like one set of industries, so that you really get to know those people, or maybe an industry that you used to be in. Here's the example, the one that I was using. We help CEOs in the IT sector with the critical need to grow revenue generating service contracts. That's what they care about. We do this by building websites that generate qualified leads that convert into loyal clients. Clients who pay every month, on time, for years and years and years to come. That's what they want. And if I could do this by making an ugly website like that one that was back there, just to nail that home, they'd buy it in spades. So let's do another example.
I just wanted to break in here for a moment to share a story about how when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an engineer. When I went to college, that's what I studied. My degrees are in computer science, and I went to work for Bell Laboratories, and I did engineering kind of stuff. I actually earned a couple inventions with a couple other guys, and it was a lot of fun. But then one day I came to this realization that many of the projects that I was working on was getting canceled, and I didn't understand why. As I got closer and closer to the customer, it became clear that we were not selling them what they needed. And that's how I got into sales. I remember the second customer that I had, though. It was a lady, and I had been calling her 7-8 times, and I was trying to get her to close. I was trying to get her to buy. And she said to me, under no uncertain terms do you ever call me again. And she hung up on me. An email came in like 2 days later and said, I'm really interested in your product, but I never want to hear from that Pat Helmers guy. It was a terrible situation. I was being a pushy sales guy, and it was extremely uncomfortable. That's why I wrote the Selling with Confidence online self-paced course. This course is designed in the same style of the Sales Babble podcast that you're used to listening to. It's got videos and handouts and PowerPoints and things like that, and it talks about all things like cold calling, lead generation, prospecting, presentations, closing, and LinkedIn. It also comes with 2 half-hour sessions of consulting with me. Step up your sales skills today. Go to salesbabble.com and you will see the class. Start selling with confidence today.
So let's do another example. You drive up to McDonald's. Have you ever done this? And you pull up to the window and you know what you want ahead. You know what you want ahead of time. I want a quarter pounder. No, it's a Big Mac. I want a Big Mac. Those are my favorite. And the first thing the person says is, welcome to McDonald's. Would you like to try our special, the McTofu burger or something like that? And I say, and what do you always say? No, I don't want that. Okay. And then you say, no, I really want a Big Mac, which is 2 all beef special, 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Right? That's really what I want. So they go, okay. Yeah, is there anything else? And I might say, I want French fries. And they say, okay, thank you very much. It's going to be, $4.75. Pull up to window number 1. You pull up to window number 1. You give them the money. They give you a bag, and it's got what you ordered, and you drive away. That's like a classic, transaction, like we hear all the time. A lot happened in that little transaction. Let's go back and relook at that. You pulled up. You already had in your mind what you wanted, a problem that you wanted solved. You pull up, and what's the first thing they do? They just start talking to you. They don't ask me what I want. They just make an assumption. I want this hot new thing they got. Because they care about themselves, pushing this crappy McTofu burger on me, right? So that's just a fail. But how do they overcome it? Then they ask a question. How can I help you? Kind of goes back like we were talking before. Then they listened. I told them what I wanted. They checked to see if I had it, if they had it. Now, what if I had said, I would like a Whopper? They would have said, no, we don't have Whoppers here. You have to go to Burger King for that, right? But they did have what I had. At least they had run out. Then they told me how much it was, and then I paid them, and then I was happy, and I went on. This is how all great sales really should go. You bump into somebody, you ask them what do they want, they tell you, you figure out if you can do that, and if you can, you say, this is what it's going to cost. And if they think there's a good value of exchange there, they'll pay you. Great sellers have heat. As a VP of sales for many, many years, I hired a ton of salespeople. And it was hard to figure out exactly at first what makes for a good salesperson and what doesn't. And eventually I came to this realization that there's 4 things that I'm looking for in a person. And it's kind of easy to get 2 or 3 out of 4, or 2 out of 4, but it's hard to get 4 out of 4. Let me show you what this list is. First off, great salespeople are helpful. That's the first thing they have right in their bones is like, how can I help you? It's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. How can I help you? How can I serve you? That's why I always used to like to hire wait staff. People who tended bars and worked in restaurants. Because that's the attitude they have. How can I help you? And they can multitask. The next thing is great salespeople are empathetic, which means they emotionally care deeply that you're taken care of. That matters to them. They're not doing it just because they have this notion of I'm going to get paid because I like this person. They really want to like this person, and they don't care if they get paid or not. It's part of who they really are. The third thing is great salespeople are astute, which means they're smart. And sometimes people say they want something, but they don't really know what they want. But a smart salesperson can kind of figure out, oh, I see you think this might be the solution. Why don't you tell me more about your problem? Because it might be this might be a better solution. And with the idea of them going, wow, that's really cool. I never thought about that. Great salespeople are astute. And then lastly, great salespeople are tenacious. Because lots of times, if you bump into somebody and you talk to them, the average salesperson, the average person who does selling, only follows up twice. But in reality, you have to follow up at least 8 times, which is a lot. Some of these people I was working on this winter, I was following up with 12, 13 times before I finally got an actual coffee meeting or a significant conversation on a telephone. It took that many times because people are busy. People have a feeling like, well, I sent them an email, I never heard from them. Obviously, they don't want it. No, that's not obvious. What's obvious is they didn't have time to answer that email, but it doesn't mean they didn't want what you got at all. So great salespeople we got. Helpful, empathetic, astute, and tenacious. Next. Once you kind of figure out the people that you're looking for, it's actually not that hard to find them. You can certainly Google companies of a set thing in a location, but you can go to a Chamber of Commerce list. All these towns have chambers of commerce. They publish right on there who's in there. Those people, for the most part, pay to be in the Chamber of Commerce, which tells me they got money. Trade show exhibitors are another one. If you walk a trade show for some industry, you don't even have to have a booth or anything. You just walk up and down and just start picking up business cards for people and chat with people. Oh, you like your website? Are you happy with your website? Things like that. You can do that. Organizations and government lists. Actually, like the state of Illinois has a lot of lists on all kinds of government, like every city, all kinds of city municipalities, all kinds of schools, fire departments, with the names of all the people in there. Here in Naperville, it's not on this, they have a database called Reference USA. I was just there Saturday downloading it. It's totally free. It can give you a list of all kinds of people within an industry, within a set of parameters, like how much revenue they get per year, and their names of the CEOs and the executives. And some. But we're going to talk about email. There's a way of getting their email. I'll show you a way of doing that. So, you go to the library and you look up their business databases. They have a bunch of they call them business databases. And anybody can go to Naperville. You don't have to have a patron. You can use it there for free. And just sit in there and you find it and it exports it into a spreadsheet, and then you put it on your thumb drive and you take it back with you. And you get a free copy of Insightly, which is a CRM, and you can import it all up and you can as leads, and then you can start being like real grown up and and using a CRM which is a database for selling, to keep track of everybody. When did I send them email? When did I call them? Notes and things like that. Another thing then you do is you got to find them on LinkedIn. A lot of people hate LinkedIn. I don't get it, but it's one of the nicest social networks out there. There's no drama on there. You're not going to find that obnoxious cousin that you got who's constantly posting crap you don't like. Everybody's nice here. Almost so nice it's vanilla. It's actually right. And all you got to do is, it's not too hard. You can type in the person's name that you got from the database and you find them. And then, and lots of times if they don't have names of people in there, look for the company name, and the company name will pop up. And you'll see 2 or 3 people within that company. And then you just reach out to them. I think that's the next one here. You look for the staff. It'll say, see all 19 employees. And then you click on that. And there they all are. We got Wendy Ryder, she's president and founder. We got Ronnie Reeder, he's the CFO, the VP of sales, the CMO. And then you click on them and you add a little note. It says there, connect. And then it says, hi, Ronnie. I see that you're in the IT MSP business. profession. I am too. And you're local. I see you're right next door. I love connecting with people in the industry. I'd love to meet you sometime. Thanks, Pat. And then it'll sit there for weeks. Or maybe they'll get on it pretty quick. You don't necessarily know. If they connect on it with you, you would say, "Hey, John, I see that you're this is the one I just gave you. I connect with other people in the industry, especially those who are all local. Thanks, Pat. By the way, I had the link to this on the meetup group." So then what we do, we go into a cadence where we connect with them on LinkedIn. We send them an in message through LinkedIn. And then after a few days, then we send them an email. That's why you need a CRM to keep track. Then you send them an email that says, "Hey, John, I'm just following up on the connect request that I sent you on LinkedIn." Because every time you connect with somebody, you got to give them a reason why you're connecting. You just can't say, "I want to connect with people." I'm on LinkedIn. I got almost 3,000 people connected with me. And most people connect with me are horrible at it. They just say, "Connect." And they don't say why they want to connect or anything. And if I accept it, next thing you know, they're going to send me something that says, "Buy my crap." Buy my crap. Which is just a terrible way of doing business. Way to think about LinkedIn is if you go to a networking meeting, and you bump up to somebody and you say, "Oh, this is my new thing I'm saying. What do you do for fun? Sanjeev? What do you do for fun?" "You write? How cool. I'd love to learn more about writing. Here, this is my card. You have a card?" "Yes." "Thanks. I really appreciate it. We should talk sometime. It's really been great meeting you." And that's it. And you don't try to push them to buying something now. We talk next week. See if we maybe meet for coffee. Maybe we just talk on the phone. It can be something easy and see whether or not there's something there or not. Do the same thing on LinkedIn. And this whole exchange is just the same. Like you're handing somebody a card and they're handing your card back. And then you see something they wrote maybe and you say, "Well, I would like to chat about that." Maybe we can hop on the phone and have a phone call and see. Because everybody knows they're there for business. No one's going to be surprised if you're looking to maybe do a partnership or maybe buy something from them or maybe sell something from them. No one's surprised, right? It's not like you're on Facebook and someone invites you to some, I don't know, party, right? What's the hot new parties now? Lulu leggings. Oh, you see that, you're going, "I don't want to go to that party. I really don't want to go to that party." I don't mean to pick on those people, but on LinkedIn, I'm not surprised if someone pitches to me something. But the nice thing to do is to do it in a nice way. We just have a conversation about what do we like to do. So so I've been asking more like, what do you like to do for fun versus what do you do for a living? Because that's what everybody says. Because it'll eventually come out. People are dying to talk about themselves, but better let Sanju tell me about that than me kind of force it out of them. People love talking to you. Let them talk. Let's say they reach out to you. What I know what most people do is they never accept the connects because they think it's strange or weird. Even though they're in a social walled garden, they're surprised that people reach out to them and try to be social. I always accept everybody. And I go, "Thanks for connecting. I really appreciate it. I'm looking for advice on some project we're starting. I have a plan I'd like to run by you. Would really appreciate your thoughts. Would you be open to meeting for coffee this week? Thanks." So lots of times when I'm looking for meeting people for coffee, I'm saying, "I got an idea. I'm not too sure about it. I'd like to run it by you. Would you be open? I'd love to get your advice on it." Because quite frankly, that's true. Yeah, I'm trying to sell them something, but especially when I'm starting with your first 10 customers, trying to figure out what you're doing, I'm not too sure exactly what they're looking for or not. So the best way to do is just to go to them and ask them and say, "This is what I'm thinking about building. This is what I'm thinking about doing." And that's what I did at Voyager Nets. We're thinking about building websites kind of like this just for IT people, and it would have this other kind of IT kind of stuff in it. Do you think that's valuable, or wouldn't it? That would be the question I met once we had coffee or something. People loved to talk about that stuff. And they didn't feel like they were being sold at all. And then at the end of the meeting, they might go, oh, this is kind of interesting. I might want to buy some of it. Now I want to get to what you were saying, Bruce. How do you find their email? If you look for the website on LinkedIn, they'll have their website. There's a tool called Hunter.io. You ever heard of this tool? You put in the domain, and it'll tell you people who have an email in that company. And it will guess what they think the format of that is. And it's 90% right. So even though the person you want to talk to is not in LinkedIn, because lots of times executives aren't because they're too busy, or at least they think so. If you know their name is Tom Jones, and it's probably TJONES at the name of the company dot whatever. And you just send an email to that, and it works like 90% of the time. It's pretty cool. If it bounces, you'll know right off the bat. Yeah, that works surprisingly well. Hunter.io. That's a pretty cool tool. It's free. This is what it looks like. Connect with anyone. And then the email I would send them is advice needed. So people like to be considered experts. And you would say something like, hey, I just sent you a LinkedIn request on Tuesday. So yeah, I'm following this cadence right here. The reason I'm calling you, the reason I'm emailing you is because of the LinkedIn I sent you. I'm looking for some advice on a project we're starting. I have a plan I'd like to run by you. Would really appreciate your thoughts. Would you be open for a meeting for coffee this week? And sometimes they'll say, how about Thursday or how about Friday? I'll just throw them something. And they'll invariably say, oh, that won't work. How about Tuesday next week? Oh, that'd be fine. Because when you're selling stuff, you're always free. You'll move anything around to meet people. Unless it's some other person, customer. Question?
Sometimes they'll say, what works better for you, Tuesday or Thursday?
Yeah, that sounds kind of icky. I don't like that.
Cliche.
Yeah, it is. It sounds cliche-ish. I don't.
Just trying not to get a negative out of it. So either or.
Yeah,
You have a choice.
look, if they really don't want to meet you, you don't want them for customers.
Right.
You're not tricking anybody here.
So would you wait for someone, like, what do you take as a no, as like I'm done, this is a dead end, this person is not going to meet? Would you, like if someone's like, no, I can't make it, you would continue with that person, right? You said 8 times.
No, if you actually got them on the phone and was chatting with them, that's a success. Just to be on the phone with them is a success. That's the hardest thing to do about all this. You're just getting them on the phone or getting them to meet for coffee. That's the hardest part there is. It'll be pretty clear whether they're a good fit or not. Or they might say, look, I already got somebody. I bumped into this. I got somebody who does my websites already. It's my cousin. I heard that a lot. It's a relative. I got this 16-year-old niece. She does really good work. Heard that a lot. Okay. Then you let it go. What's hard is when people are not very clear communicators. I wish they would just tell me, no, go away, but they don't. So instead what they do is they'll do things like, well, let me think about it. Or why don't you send me some more stuff? And I'm of the notion of this is a very long game. We just closed a sale last month, August, that I started the last week of March. It took that long. That guy really needed to think it out. For him, this was a huge investment. I didn't think it was a lot of money, but for him, it was huge. And I respected that. And the way I kept following up with him is after I'd actually met him, given him a quote, and he wanted to think it over, and I just kept following up like every 3 weeks. Is there anything else you need? Anything else I can get you? Is there anybody else you want to talk to maybe that we have for customers? Would you like, I don't know. Well, is there anything I can do? And then in 3 weeks, I'd do it all over again. And just keep up and keep up. And what people like about that is they like that I'm top of mind. They like that I'm not being pushy. I'm just being helpful. I'm not saying this. Have you decided whether or not you're going to buy my stuff? I'm not saying that. Instead, what I'm saying is, anything else I can do to help you? Why advice? I kind of talked a little bit. Why do I say I'm doing this idea of asking for advice? Because it's a way of doing market research. It's a way for you to better understand what the problems and the challenges and the desires a niche has. It's an easy way to qualify people too. You start asking them a bunch of questions, it'll be pretty clear that they're not qualified to buy for you by asking lots of questions. Unfortunately, what a lot of people do, and I think this is just a really dumb business model, is they build stuff long before they ever talk to a customer, long before they ever do any market research. They build this whole business up, and they build big websites, and they build lots of cards, and they buy lots of stuff up. Instead, it makes more sense. Instead of building lots of infrastructure for a business, is you just go out there and meet people, ask them for their advice. And the other thing too is it creates curiosity of what you have. Because when you're asking them advice about stuff, you have a bunch of questions you're asking them about this, then you get down to the end, they'll go, well, what is this really about? What's this for? What are you really trying to do? And they actually become more of a partner with you, psychologically from all that. And then the third part is to call them up. I look for the main phone on the website. You hope that there's a dial by name directory. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. If they answer, act like you know them. Say, hey, John, I'm just following up on the message I sent you on LinkedIn. Did you get it? And they'll go, like, yes, I'm the guy who sells the websites, that's me. Oh. And then this is when you often get kicked out, where they'll go something like, I already got this covered.
If you're just talking to them like conceptually, they just like blank stare.
Yes.
But if you actually show them something, isn't that then
Yes. Beneficial? Yes. And that's actually what I would do.
I mean, it's hard because
Yeah. When I did these coffee things, I always brought a picture, and it had boxes and circles and squares and lines. Always. And it looked like something I had just drawn, I would draw it with using Google tools, but it didn't look like anything professionally done by a marketer. It looks like something I'm like really working on. People love to talk to that. That had authority. That looked authentic to them. Absolutely. I'm with you. I did that all the time. Yeah. So let's say it's been 3 months. I haven't heard from them. Then I would say, remember that picture I showed you? I got an updated version of it. Would you want to meet for coffee and I can show you it again? Show you what the changes are? Every time you reach out to somebody, it's got to have a reason. And there's always got to be clear in their mind that it's going to be a valuable experience for them somehow. They're going to learn something. So you call them up. Now sometimes you're going to get the gatekeeper. And that's the person who answers the phone. And it's commonly a lady, but not always, but often. You always treat her like she's the person you're trying to talk to. You treat them just as much respect as if they're the president of the company. And you just start saying the same thing to them. Well, look, I'm looking for some advice on this. We're looking to build this thing for this industry. We're not really certain how we're going to do this. Would you be interested in? It's about websites. We're building websites. And they'll say, oh, that's not me. You need to talk to that person. I'm like, oh, can you send me to them? Sure. Or they'll start answering the question. They'll say, well, we have a program. We're actually working on that. That's sometimes pretty interesting too. They're actually pretty savvy. And then sometimes you come to the realization they are the boss. But they don't tell you that right off the bat. That's the way you want to treat everybody like they're the boss. Hello, I'm looking for John. Is he in? Oh, no. Oh, that's okay. Can I leave a message for him? It's about the email that I sent him on Tuesday. That's not a lie. Another thing, too, you've noticed here, I haven't said a single lie in any of this. I've been honest and straightforward with everything that I've done. And if they say, sure, they send you off to them. If you call 3 times and no luck, what advice do you have for me? I've called. Oh, here's another time. Look, I've called John 3 times here. For some reason, he's not getting back to me. Do you have any advice for me? What do you think I should do? If you were me, what would you do? Ask them for advice. And very often, they'll tell you what to do. You got to call after 5 o'clock. Oh, okay. People are surprisingly nice. Here's my 3x8 rule. You reach out every 3 days, mix it up in how you reach out, repeat 8 times, sometimes 12, always add value. I'm trying to show them I understand their industry. I learned enough about their industry that I know they care about this new regulation that's going in. And it may change how they do their websites. And I'm not just some Yahoo who goes to the WordPress meetings in Naperville who's trying to sell to everybody and anybody, right? I'm an expert. Okay. Rinse and repeat. You start with LinkedIn, then you send them an email, and then you call. Then you go back on LinkedIn, send them another IN message. Then you send them an email, and you call. Tenacity is the thing to keep in mind. It takes a lot of times. It takes a lot of tries to follow up with people. Technology has made it much harder to sell than it ever was. It was much easier to sell 20, 30 years ago. Because literally the way you did it, and back when I was selling school stuff, we literally it was actually kind of fun. You would drive up to a school, all dressed up. You'd have a bunch of brochures in your hand. You'd walk in there and say, hey, I'm just dropping this off for Dr. So-and-so. Are they in? Oh, they're not in? That's okay. I'll call them up later. Oh, yeah, doctor in. Is she busy right now? Can I go? Maybe you quick go in and you start chit-chatting with them. This is very easy. Don't be pushy. Don't connect without a note. Don't pitch without a dialogue. And by that, I mean having lots of chit-chat about lots and lots of stuff. Don't communicate in paragraphs. Your email should be really brief, small. They should look like emails that you typed. None of this kind of fancy kind of MailChimp kind of HTML kind of emails that look like newsletters. That just looks like crap. They want an email that looks like it's somebody just really typed it out. The open rates are much higher. The key to the long game is to follow up. Patience, tenacity, and grit. The value proposition is really something you should have up on your desk that you're looking at all the time. If this is my ideal client, this is the primary product or service I provide, the value I bring it's going to be something in this space here. You know, revenue, profit, cost, quality, time, frustration. It could be happiness, peace, wellness, fitness, some kind of benefit, the benefit that they care. And those are the ones you're going to focus on. And what's the primary pain or desire that they experience that you're trying to take away? We help these kinds of companies and people who have this set of problems by providing this kind of product or service, and the value they experience is peace, love, and then after you say your value proposition, then you say, hey, is that you? Are you that person? That's another thing we do at the networking maybe. Let's just say you start asking me about me, and I say, well, let me tell you what I am. I build websites for companies. What's your IT? Yeah, no, you're a software company, right? Right. You're a software marketing company. Oh yeah, we build software that helps software and marketing companies be more successful. Is that you? Okay, you're not qualified. Is that you? You're not qualified. Why waste time with you anymore? If you're not qualified, sometimes you go to these meetups and people will start pitching their crap on you. I'm not qualified. I don't need to get my mortgage rates down. I don't have a mortgage. You never even asked me if I had a mortgage. Closing the deal. When you meet with people, lots of times I'll be asking, what are the problems and challenges that you're facing? And you write down a list. As they talk about it, you say, would it be okay if I took some notes? You write it all down. And then you say, I was walking through the list. Do you see how it solves this problem? And they go, uh-huh. You see how it solves this one? And they'll go, uh-huh. You just keep doing that. Till you get all the way down to the bottom of the list, and it looks like it's all uh-huhs. It may not be all uh-huhs, right? You might be 8 out of 10, but close, right? And it sounds like what you're telling me, it sounds like what I'm offering does like 90% of what you're looking for. Is that right? Uh-huh. Well, let's get started. Okay. Well, and I send you some paperwork, and, well, what's it going to cost? Well, then we'll figure that out. This is what the price is. And then all of a sudden they might have more problems that weren't on the list. They might say no. They will say, oh, how come? Well, there's other problems on the list. Okay, well, what else? What else? What else? You put those on the list. Then you start walking through that again. You may actually find you can't scratch off their list, which means you don't have what they want. But that's okay. You've learned something in this meeting. You've learned something that you want to be adding to your offering. You've actually done some market research here. Because really, the way I like to think of this, it's like matchmaking. It's like dating. It's got to be a good deal for you. It's got to be a good deal for me. It's got to be a good deal both ways. I have no money. You're wasting time with them. So if they say they don't have any money, that's something it's always kind of important to try to figure out to begin with. If it looks like it's a ratty little business, they probably can't afford you. If they have a website that's really, really bad, it probably means they can't afford you. But if they have a website that looks really pretty, but it's not mobile adaptive, they might be qualified. Or they have a website and nobody goes to it. Go back to SEO. People can't find it. They don't get any leads from that. We used to do what we called marketing agency light. We would help them come up with a lead magnet. We would help them get some kind of email tool plugged in. So there'd be a pop-up. So you extract their emails and you give them some lead magnet, and then you'd have an email list that you can market to. A lot of people don't do that. Those basic kind of stuff. Little bit of marketing, not like a full-blown like big marketing agency. Just a little bit of marketing. Because really what people are buying to a certain degree, interesting thing is, it's not really your website. What they're buying is you. They're buying the idea that you're going to look out for me. You seem really nice. You've been really patient with me. You listen to all my bad stories. You've asked me a million questions. You've answered everything I've ever asked. You seem like you really like me. You seem like you really care about my business. I don't know if you're perfect or not, but I like you. I want to hire you. That's the way a lot of this goes. This is a book I read a long time ago, but I re-bumped into it again recently, and it's really sticking in my head. Antonio Damasio's book, Descartes' Error. We are not thinking machines. We are feeling machines that think. That's how humans are, and that's who you're selling to. People who aren't very rational. People who aren't very logical. In fact, none of us are very rational, and none of us are very logical. We mostly do things on feelings. We're animals through and through. That once in a while we have a rational thought and we execute on it. But for the most part, it's the other way around. People have to have that feeling that they trust you, that you got their back. That matters more than all the logic of all the features that you have, a big bullet list of stuff that makes you awesome. One day, a lady's walking down the sidewalk, and she goes by a store, and she looks up, she sees this beautiful dress in the window. And she says, I have this wedding, that's the dress for me. So she quick walks into the store, marches up to the shopkeeper and she goes, ma'am, I would like to try on that dress in the window. And the shopkeeper says, absolutely, ma'am, anything you want. But you might be more comfortable in the changing room. That shopkeeper's looking out for her customer. She's not giving her exactly what she asked for, but she has an idea what the woman really wants. And that's the attitude we need to have too when we're selling stuff. Some keys to success: slow down, don't be in a rush, give people time to get to know you, be clear who you help and why, ask and listen, and then listen some more. Ask and listen some more. Actually help and make friends. B2B selling, which is mostly what we're doing here, takes a long time. B2B selling can be very rewarding though. And that's it. Questions?
So as you can probably hear during the talk, I was referencing a slide deck. I've made sure and included a link on the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/287. If you like what you heard, why don't you have me come speak to your group? I would love to come visit. Got lots of topics that we can chat about. I'd love to meet you. Now, if there's anything during this presentation that you had a question about, I couldn't cover everything and anything, but if you got a question, don't hesitate to reach out and click on the Babble Me button at salesbabble.com. Again, sorry this has run a little long, but I hope you've enjoyed it. That said, that's all I've got for this week. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.